Welcome to Sleepy Chronicles. Whatever today brought you, the noise, the rush, the things that didn't go the way you wanted, you can set all of that down now. Lie back, put your headphones in, let your shoulders drop and your jaw unclench. This is your time, and there is nowhere else you need to be. If you enjoy what we do here, quiet voices, slow history, and the kind of stories that make your eyelids feel heavier with each sentence, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe. It costs nothing and means quite a lot. And let us know in the comments where in the world you're listening from. We read every single one. Tonight, we're going to a palace in Vienna in the early 1500s, where one of the most powerful families in Europe has spent generations building an empire, not with armies, but with wedding invitations. So get comfortable. We'll take it from here. The room is still dark when you open your eyes. Heavy curtains hold back the morning, and for a moment the world is nothing but velvet blankets and church bells somewhere beyond the palace walls. You lie still and listen. 6 bells. 7. The city is waking up, and so, whether you're ready or not, are you. This has always been your room. The painted ceiling shows angels and ancestors in equal measure, their faces calm, as though they've never worried about anything as ordinary as getting out of bed. And yet, this morning, something feels different. Perhaps it's the document that arrived yesterday. Perhaps it's the way Alina looked at you when she brought it in. That particular stillness she has when she already knows something you don't. She arrives now, before you've had time to think too carefully. Alina has been in this palace longer than most of the furniture. She sets a candle near the window and lays out your clothes without speaking. There's a ritual to mornings here, and Alina respects rituals the way other people respect laws. While she works, your eyes drift to the walls. Portraits line every corridor in this palace, and your room is no exception. 3 generations of faces look back at you from heavy frames. Your grandfather, his sister, a great-uncle whose name you always confuse with another great-uncle who looks nearly identical. In this family, the same features appear again and again. The same brow, the same set of the jaw. Court painters have learned to be diplomatic about it. But you grew up with these faces. You know them. You are one of them. Alina glances at you. A look that contains several sentences compressed into silence. They all look related, you say. They are related, she replies, and hands you your coat. Have you ever looked at a family portrait and wondered how far back the resemblance really goes. By the time you reach the study, Father Ignacio is already there. He stands near the window, and on the table lies a document sealed in dark wax. The seal belongs to a branch of the family based further south. Cousins, technically. Though in this family, the word technically does a great deal of work. He waits until you've sat before he speaks. The arrangement has been confirmed. The families are in agreement. The contract is ready for signature. You look at the seal. The wax is still unbroken. And the other party, you ask. A small pause. Is aware, he says, and willing. Willing is an interesting word. You've noticed that people in this palace use it when the more accurate word might be something else entirely. The strategy that shapes your life was not invented recently. Emperor Maximilian, I understood something most rulers of his era did not. Wars were expensive, men, money, years. But a wedding was an investment, a contract, an alliance, and children who would one day inherit what you'd acquired without anyone sharpening a sword. His most celebrated move came in 1477, when he married Mary of Burgundy and brought her vast territories into the Habsburg orbit. Not through siege, through ceremony. The family motto said it plainly. Let others wage war. You, happy Austria, marry. And so they did. Each marriage kept the crowns inside the same circle of names. It made the Habsburg family tree one of the most impressive and most tangled records in European history. Father Ignacio is still by the window when you look up. The sealed document sits between you, the wax unbroken, the names inside it waiting. Alina appears in the doorway. She looks at the document, then at you, and something passes across her face, not concern exactly, but the careful blankness of someone who has learned not to say everything she's thinking. She leaves without speaking, and the contract stays on the table, sealed, patient, as though it already knows how this ends. The light in the portrait room is different from everywhere else in the palace, softer. The windows face west, and in the afternoon, the sun comes in at an angle that makes everything look slightly more golden than it actually is. You've always thought portrait painters chose their rooms carefully, not for the view, but for the flattery. You sit in the chair they've prepared for you, high-backed, draped in cloth the color of deep water. The painter adjusts the angle of your chin without speaking. up slightly. There, he steps back and studies you the way priests study scripture, with the attention of someone looking for something they already suspect is there. Alina sits near the door with a piece of mending she hasn't touched in 20 minutes. You know, because you've been watching her the way you watch most things in this palace, sideways, without appearing to look at all. There is a small mirror on the table beside the painter's supplies. Not large enough to be useful, but large enough to be honest. You've been avoiding it since you sat down. Eventually, you look. The face that looks back is familiar in the way. All faces in this palace are familiar. You've seen it before in your grandfather's portrait at the end of the east corridor, in the sketch of your father's sister in the archive room. The same brow, the same jaw, pushing forward slightly, the lower lip sitting beneath it, with the patience of something that has always been there. Court painters have been managing this feature for decades. The angle of the head, the direction of the light, a collar, a shadow. Less deception than translation, rendering something true in a language that is easier to look at. This is how Philip II was painted, you find yourself thinking. His mother was his cousin, a double cousin, sharing grandparents on both sides. The painters in his court became very good at angles. His son was born with difficulties no one could name. The boy struggled to walk, struggled to speak, in ways the court physicians treated with herbs and prayer and careful silence. They called it temperament. The court called most things temperament when the real word was too uncomfortable to say aloud. You've heard this history your entire life, not directly, but through walls, through pauses, through the way adults stop talking when you enter a room. Have you ever sat very still and felt the weight of a history that belongs to your face more than to you? Father Ignacio appears in the doorway. He positions himself just inside your line of sight and waits until the painter steps back, then leans slightly toward you. There is a question, he says, about the timing. You know what timing means. It means the contract, the name inside the seal you haven't opened. The painter needs stillness, you say. Father Ignacio considers this. Of course, he says, and straightens. The painter glances up. Please, he says, to no one in particular. Father Ignacio moves to the window. Alina's hands finally begin to move across the mending. The room settles back into quiet. You are not always here. People in this palace tend to forget that that you came from somewhere before this, that there was a house before the corridors and the contracts. You were 7 when you arrived. You remember Alina meeting you at the gate, her face already wearing that expression of someone who knows what is coming and has decided not to say so. She was kind that first day. She is always kind. That is not the same as saying she tells you everything. The painter puts down his brush and turns the canvas away in one efficient motion. You don't ask to see it. The portrait will go where portraits go, to a wall, to a foreign court, to a room where someone who has never met you will study your face and draw their own conclusions. They will see what all the others have seen, the family in your features, the history written into the shape of your jaw. Alina rises and comes to stand beside you. Near the door, beside a stack of sketches, sits the sealed document. No one has moved it. The wax is still unbroken, the name inside still waiting. You walk past it without stopping, but you feel it the way you feel most things here. At the edge of your vision, sideways, without appearing to look at all, they call you to the nursery just after midnight. No explanation. A servant appears at your door, says only that Father Ignacio has asked for you, and disappears before you can form a question. You dress quickly in the dark. The document is on your table. You take it without thinking, the way you take things you don't want to leave unattended. Alina is waiting in the corridor. She doesn't ask where you're going. She already knows, which means she knew before you did, which is not unusual. She falls into step beside you and stays there until you reach the nursery wing, where she stops at the threshold and does not follow you inside. "I'll be here," she says. It is the most she offers. You've learned not to ask for more. The room is warm and dim, lit by candles burned low. 2 physicians stand near the bed, speaking to each other in the quiet, clipped sentences of men trying to sound more certain than they are. Father Ignacio stands apart from them, near the window, his hands folded in front of him. He is not praying. You can tell the difference by now when he prays his eyes close and his shoulders drop slightly. Now his eyes are open and his shoulders are perfectly still, which means he is watching. The child in the bed is small, too small for his age, which you know because you've been told his age, and the number doesn't match what you're looking at. He sleeps fitfully, his breathing shallow, his hands curled at his sides. One of the physicians adjusts the blanket. The other writes something down. This is what happened to Don Carlos, you think. Philip II's son. Born to a double cousin, parents who shared grandparents on both sides. A closeness the court described as politically advantageous, and history would describe differently. The boy was slow to walk, slow to speak. The physicians who attended him tried everything they understood, which was not enough, because what was happening to him existed in a language medicine wouldn't learn for another 2 centuries. He died at 23. Philip confined him before the end, which the court also called something other than what it was. The child in the bed shifts. One of the physicians murmurs something reassuring. You wonder if it is true. Father Ignacio comes to stand beside you. He is quiet for a moment, looking at the child. Then, without turning his head, he says, I baptized his father. You look at him. He was a healthy infant, Father Ignacio says. Strong. Everyone said so. A pause. Everyone always says so. It is the most personal thing he has ever said to you. You understand, from the way he says it, that it has cost him something. He is a man who spends his words carefully, who measures comfort against truth, and usually chooses a careful position between the two. This is different. This is him setting something down. You look at the document in your hands. The seal is still unbroken. The name, you say. Father Ignacio is quiet for a moment. Then, your cousin on your mother's side and your father's, both sides. You knew, in the way you know things in this palace, sideways before you're told. But knowing and being told are different things. Being told has a weight that knowing doesn't. Your hand tightens slightly around the document. You are aware of your own jaw. The particular angle of it, the way it sits in your face, the feature every painter in this palace has been quietly managing since before you were old enough to sit for a portrait. You have your grandfather's jaw. Your grandfather had his father's. The child in the bed has it too. You can see it even now, even in sleep, even in the dim candlelight of a room that smells of herbs and worry. You are not afraid, exactly, but your hand doesn't loosen. One of the physicians glances at you, then away. The other continues writing. Father Ignacio returns to his place by the window, and the room settles back into its careful, quiet work of waiting. You stay a little longer than you need to. Then you go back to the corridor, where Alina is standing exactly where she said she would be. She looks at your face, then at the document in your hand. and she doesn't say anything. She simply turns and begins walking back the way you came, and you follow her, and the candles along the corridor make your shadow long and quiet behind you. You don't look at the document again, but you don't put it down either. The document sits at the corner of the table, folded once, the seal broken now. No one looks at it directly. That is the nature of things in this palace. The most significant objects are treated as though they are barely there, as though acknowledging them too openly might disturb something carefully arranged. The wax has been cut. The names inside have been read. And now the contract sits at the edge of the table like a guest who has delivered their message and doesn't quite know when to leave. The dinner is formal. It always is. Long table, heavy silver, candles in rows down the center. Nobles on both sides. Conversations kept to a pleasant register. The kind of talk that fills a room without saying very much. You sit where you've been placed, close enough to the head of the table to matter, far enough to observe. Across from you, your cousin. You have met before, briefly, at occasions that required you both to be present without requiring you to speak. But this is different. This is the first meal since the seal was broken. Both of you know it. Neither of you mentions it. The soup arrives, and you lift your spoon, and the evening continues. He is not what you expected. He has a way of sitting that is careful without being stiff. And when one of the older nobles says something that doesn't quite land, his expression shifts for only a moment before returning to neutral fast enough that most people miss it. You don't miss it. You file that away without deciding what to do with it. Alina moves along the far side of the room with the other attendants. She never looks at you directly in rooms like this. Too many eyes. Too many people who notice where eyes go. But at one point, she passes behind your chair, slows for just a moment, and says quietly enough that only you hear, "Your mother used to hold her cup with both hands." That is all. She moves on before you can respond. You look down at your own hands. You are holding your cup with both hands. You don't know if she said it to comfort you or to tell you something she felt you should know. With Alina, it is often both at once. She was in the house you came from before she was here, your mother's house, the one you left at 7. She was the thread between those two places, and you have never asked what it cost her to be that. The meat arrives. The conversations shift. Charles I ate slowly. You find yourself thinking. the last of the Spanish Habsburgs, born in 1661 to a father who had married his own niece. His jaw made chewing difficult. Meals were long, careful, managed by kitchen staff who had learned to prepare food that required less effort to eat. The empire that had stretched across continents sat at the head of a very long table and worked through dinner one slow bite at a time. He ruled for 35 years. Most of that ruling was done by the people around him. You take a careful bite. You chew slowly. It is not difficult for you, not yet. Perhaps not ever, but the thought stays. Father Ignacio is seated further down the table. At one point, he glances toward the corner where the document sits. Not at you, at the document. Then he looks back at his plate, and something in his face is very still. The way faces go still when a person has made peace with something they didn't choose. He catches you watching him. He holds your gaze for a moment, then nods once and returns to his meal. You are not sure what the nod means. Perhaps, yes, this is what is happening. Yes, the document is signed. The dinner ends gradually. Chairs scraping back, conversations dissolving. Your cousin rises before you do. He pauses beside his chair, looks at you, says nothing. You say nothing. He leaves. You sit for a moment longer. The document is still at the corner of the table. Someone will collect it tonight and file it in the archive with all the others. The contracts, the sealed and broken promises that have been building this dynasty for 200 years. You reach out and rest your fingers on it. The paper is cool. The broken wax is rough at the edges. Then you take your hand away. You know what you are going to do. You have known since the nursery, since the child in the bed, since Father Ignacio said everyone always says so. You haven't said it aloud yet, but you know. He knock comes just after 3 in the morning. You are not asleep. You've been lying in the dark with your eyes open, listening to the palace breathe around you. The candle on the table has burned down to almost nothing. The room is very still. Father Ignacio's voice comes through the door, quiet and even. He is gone. That is all he says. You hear his footsteps move away before you've had time to sit up. He has other doors to knock on tonight. The news will move through this palace like water through stone, slowly. And then, all at once, you sit on the edge of the bed and let the words settle. Charles II of Spain is dead, the last Habsburg to hold the Spanish crown. born in 1661, with 2 centuries of strategy written into his bones, into the shape of his jaw, into a body that had been asked to carry more than it could. He ruled for 35 years. He died without an heir. He was 38 years old, and by the end, the court had been governing around him the way you navigate around something fragile, carefully, without drawing attention to the care. All of Europe has been waiting for this. The question of who inherits Spain is one several kings have already been quietly answering for themselves. Tonight, it is just a door closing at the end of a very long corridor. But by spring, it will be something else entirely. Alina comes in without knocking. She sets a fresh candle on the table and sits in the chair near the window, not across from you, but beside you, angled slightly away. The way she sits when she wants to be present without making it feel like an occasion. She has been in this palace through 3 reigns. She was here when the strategy was still working, when the family tree was something to point to with pride rather than something to read like a warning. She doesn't say anything for a while. You don't either. Outside, the city goes about the ordinary business of being alive, not yet knowing what has changed. 200 years, Alina says finally. She isn't looking at you. She's looking at the candle. Maximilian married Mary. Philip married Anna. Each one a little closer than the last. Each one for a reason that made sense at the time. A pause. It always makes sense at the time. You think about the nursery, the child in the bed, Father Ignacio saying, I baptized his father. He was strong. Everyone said so. Everyone always says so. You think about the mirror in the portrait room, the jaw you recognized before you'd finished looking. You get up and go to the table where the document lies. The broken seal is face down. You pick it up and hold it for a moment, the weight of it, which is almost nothing, paper and wax, and 2 names in careful ink. Then you fold it once more and place it in the small wooden box on the shelf, the one that holds letters from your mother, the ones that stopped coming when you were 11, the ones you've never been able to ask about directly, because asking would require saying aloud that you noticed. You close the box. You don't know if what you've decided is right, but the nursery is still in you. The jaw in the mirror is still in you. The child's hands curled at his sides. Father Ignacio standing apart from everyone with his eyes open and his shoulders very still. All of it is in you, and you have decided to let it mean something. Alina is watching you when you turn around. Your mother made the same choice, she says quietly. She just didn't have anyone to tell her it was possible. You look at her for a long moment. You think she has been carrying that for years, waiting for the right place to set it down. You nod once. She nods back. The candle burns steadily between you. Outside, the first gray suggestion of morning at the edges of the curtain. That hour when everything feels very quiet and very far away. This is the part where you can let go. Not of everything, not all at once, but what you've been holding since the study, since the wax seal and the word willing used in place of something more accurate. That part you can set down now. The portraits will stay on the walls. The contracts will go into the archive, and one day someone will read them and understand what the people inside them could not quite say. And you will sleep. Let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw unclench. You've been holding it just slightly since the knock at the door, and you don't need to anymore. Let the thoughts that have been moving through you find somewhere quiet to land. You don't have to resolve anything tonight. Let the sounds around you soften. The candle, the city at the edge of morning, Alina's steady presence beside you. Let them become the kind of sound that doesn't require anything of you. Tonight, what matters is only this: the gray light at the curtain's edge, the warmth of a candle almost gone, and the fact that you came to the end of something heavy and you are still here. Let your eyes close. If this is the quiet you needed, slow history, a low voice, a story that moves at the pace of a palace falling asleep, then we're glad you found your way here. A like and a subscription takes only a moment, and it means more than you might think. But for now, there is nothing more to do. The candle is almost out. The city is almost morning, and you are almost asleep.